Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to session 7. We're on the home stretch. We've got 3 more to go. And today's session is on cultivating a positive mindset. So it's a nice follow-up from what we did in the last session on encouraging emotional intelligence, developing emotional intelligence. And I want to start off with getting you to share a positive experience that you've had this week and how it impacted your week, or impacted even more than your week.
I'm happy to go.
Go for it.
I had a coaching session where I was the coachee a couple of weeks ago, and my coach sort of got a bit nervous with me when I said, I don't really plan. I like to be in the flow. I have some plans, but actually, anyway, we got to talking about paper-based calendars, and I totally freaked. I'm like, this is not me. I'm not going to do this. And out of that evolved something around, have you actually done a dream board? Have you thought of, what are your dreams? Have you meditated on that? I'm like, not really. I should do that. And so yesterday or the day before yesterday, I forgot. I sat down and I sort of wrote, hard to see, but I wrote down what my dreams are. And I realized most of them are so short term or so achievable, which made me happy. And also at the same time made me think, am I maybe not stretching myself enough? But it's just made me appreciate, I'm in a good place. I love it. It's good. It's good enough. If it were to be like this would be good. I don't need much more. And then it might be not ambitious, but for me, it was like grounding. It was just, I'm grateful. It's good. I like it.
Thank you, Daphne. Would you like to nominate someone?
Ooh, Adam has unmuted himself, so I'm going to take that as a he's ready to go.
I just forgot to mute myself, that's all. God, I'll remember that next time now. Well, thank you, Daphne. That was really lovely. It was just so refreshing. Well, it was refreshing, but it's also a good reminder to love what we already have, to appreciate, be grateful. I really love that. And a lot of that I really resonate with, just kind of the simple things, just the very small things that make up our days, to appreciate and to take the positives from them. So I mean, I don't know, Brian, I could give, if I was pushed, I could probably get to 50 things just today, being in a positive mindset and seeing it through that lens. But I guess the thing that really stands out for me, well, today, which is very present for me, is just having a really amazing coaching session with one of my coachees. Just one of those sessions that you've just really felt, wow, this was meant to be. Like there was something that came from somewhere else that I experienced, and I don't think it was meant for me. It was meant for him, and it came through me, and it really transformed the session. So I was really thankful for that, and the impact of that, just kind of is just feeling really upbeat and really grounded, as Daphne said, just really quite content in what I do, and it's a nice feeling to have. So that was your question, wasn't it? Kind of the positive thing. Yeah. Well, let's go, Jess.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Daphne. I love these. I love the questions. I have been getting up a little bit earlier the past 2-3 weeks and really being consistent with my meditation, and then doing a 30-minute Kundalini class with chanting and body movement. And I've been allowing myself 2 cups of coffee. I'm not, if I want it, I'm like, I'm going to have it. And I'm not questioning myself. And it feels really good to be giving myself space to be in my body, do the things that feel good, and do the mental, the physical. I've also been writing my 3 pages in my artist way. So really, I mean, it's taking like 2 hours, but it feels good giving myself that space in the morning. Craig.
Which one to pick? I think maybe in a slightly different tack. I've been thinking a lot about emotions over the last couple of months, and I'm doing another program with a lady in Australia. And I was aware in her program that she brought in this sort of notion of positive and negative emotions again. It came out again. And I was like, so actually that led on to a conversation with my coach, which was really transformative for me, which was, in my family, we never expressed anger, ever. It was just not permitted. You didn't go there. It wasn't welcome. And my aha was, you can express anger without necessarily voicing it. So rather than have a gratitude journal each day, because I've got so much anger that has been stored up for so many years, I'm trying to write 1 page of A4 on what's pissing me off. Just to actually finally get it out of me and down onto the page. Not that I have to do anything with the page, but just to get it out, because it probably explains why I've been feeling so exhausted and so heavy and a bit depleted. And there's another thing that's been poking me to do it, which is, sadly, 3 of my friends have been diagnosed with cancer. One's had his operation, one's got his operation in June, and another friend has breast cancer. And I'm just like, I don't want to be carrying that around with me, because pent up, repressed feelings can lead to pretty unpleasant health issues. So now is the time for me to get it out. So that's me.
And
How about you, Nan?
You've turned that into a positive experience as well.
Really? I mean, I already feel a bit lighter from just starting. So.
That's a lot, Craig. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
I'm sort of like a number of you, that I could pull so many things out of the hat. The thing I'm going to share, though, is it's not related to coaching, but it's sort of related to teams. And that is that, so right now I'm driving from our cottage up north back to Ann Arbor. And I've been up there opening the cottage, and actually there are 2 of them. It's a huge amount of work. And our oldest, who is about to turn 27, has been sort of partnering with me. I've been trying to teach him the ropes of managing property and managing rental for the past couple of years. And he has totally stepped up and been such a relief to me. And he came up here. He lives in New York now, but he came and helped me open. And while I was in New Zealand, he made all the calls to plumber and, getting all the services on and scheduling people. And so it's not a question of my delegating to him, but it's both training him, but the partnership. And I feel like he's reached the level where we're kind of a team now. I am no longer the manager, and he proactively takes care of stuff. And having him here, my husband was here too, and also great, but I'm not training my husband how to do it. He doesn't know much about it, and my son is our kids are the ones we're passing it on to. But basically, the relationship with my son and that partnership. He left a couple days ago, but you asked Brian how it continued to impact us. At every turn, I'm just so grateful for him and his attitude, his willingness, all of that.
Thanks, Nan. That's yeah, I can see how relying on him has been so important for you, being away for that long as well.
Yes, and he's also cleaning up a lot, like digitizing a lot, and yeah, drawing up contracts, communicating with renters. Stuff.
Cool.
Been a huge relief. Thanks for the question. I'm going to go back on mute.
Thanks, Nan. And I'll share one. Actually, every morning waking up and having my dog next to me. My wife is away on holiday at the moment, so having Sasha next to me and going for a walk with him has been a delightful experience. So, I mean, he's 12, so who knows how many years we have left with him, but you know, every day that he's here has been is always a positive impact. And you know, there's a saying, everything I learned about mindfulness I learned from my dog. That's such a truth in that. One more thing, an experience I had with a coachee last week, and turns out that we had very similar experiences growing up. He was born in Malaysia, moved to Australia, moved to Singapore, lived in Singapore through his school years, and then moved to Australia for university. Exactly the same thing I did. And when he found out that that was my track, he was so delighted to meet, you know, a fellow Malaysian who went on the same path. He stayed on in Australia. He's now a director. So, you know, it's just those little moments when you meet people and you realize how much you have in common. I just wish everyone in the world could do that. I mean, looking at the state of the world at the moment, if everyone just reflected on that, it kind of reminds me of why we need people like us working in the world, coaches, that we can have such a positive impact on people. So yeah, that was my experience.
So, Brian, I'm sorry that I missed what you said or something. I must have just switched off for a second. And I know you were talking about mindfulness of learning from your dog, and then you were talking about being born in Malaysia, moving to Australia, becoming a director. And I thought you were still talking about your dog.
No.
I thought
Sasha the Wonder Dog.
Lovely. Your dog's from Malaysia, lived in Singapore. But then when you said you became a director in Australia, I was like, no, you're not talking about your dog anymore.
Yeah, he's 46 years old now.
Does he pay you to look after him, Brian?
He must be. You spend enough money on him. No, this is a coachee I started last week.
I now made the connection, but something in me just thought you were still talking about your dog there. I don't know why. Anyway. Yeah, brilliant.
I love how you switched, you moved the topic, Brian, but I want to just like say something on that similarities. I think that's such an important topic. We often go out there looking for how do we differ? What's my opinion versus yours? And this also in conflict. I don't know, I think Jesse, you wrote something about conflicts today. And I think also like if we can start with what are our similarities, where do we agree? And I think one negotiation seminar I once did, like even if you agree to disagree, start with that. It's something you have in common. You both disagree or you both don't like each other. It's something you have in common. And I just, when you said that, I was just like, yeah, let's start with similarities. You know, it's amazing to find out. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to take you to the whiteboard now. We're going to start on today's topic. And so can you see the discussion prompts? Yep. Okay, so I'd like you to put an indicator on one of the prompts, maybe a
Wait,
little vote
Wait,
on.
did you send the link out? I don't have the link. I can just see what you're sharing.
You can see the whiteboard, right?
I can see the whiteboard. I can see that Jessica is on it and you're in it, but I'm
Yeah.
not in it. I'm just seeing what you're sharing. I don't know why. Is it the same link as last time or?
It's a different link, I think. Do I need
It's just the whiteboard from Zoom.
It's a whiteboard from Zoom.
Oh my God, I've never done this.
Oh.
Outing myself. Whiteboard. There we go. Ah.
If you put a little indicator on one of those sticky
Wrong
notes,
one.
indicating which one you'd like to have a discussion on today, we can do that.
I can't read them, Brian. Can you make them larger?
Can you zoom in?
How do you?
On the top, bottom
On
left?
the bottom, there's a little zoom button.
Oh yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I've never used the whiteboard and it's pretty cool. I would like later on, maybe, Brian, in respect to what you did last time with the mural or whatever board you used, just it would be interesting to hear what you see the differences are or which one you prefer better.
With Miro versus this.
Yeah.
I wanted to try this today to see whether, I mean, this is easier to move to directly from Zoom rather than going into Miro.
Absolutely, yeah.
And people can't see Miro on the recording.
True.
Makes
and
sense.
You can prepare it and store it, or
you can set it up earlier, and it's all set up for you. I mean, I have like a number of different whiteboards all set up for this.
Love it. So that makes membership to other sort of providers almost irrelevant, right?
Yeah, it does.
Thanks. Cool. I'm so
We were
impressed.
talking about it on the group coaching community of practice this morning, yesterday actually, with Edwin on using the Zoom whiteboard. So Daphne, you've got a role of leadership. Adam, you've got role of leadership. Craig, you want impact of positivity. I know Nan can't get onto the whiteboard. She's on the phone.
And what's the question? Just which one do we think we want to explore?
Which one do you want to explore?
Should we just read it out for Nan, what the options are?
Yeah.
Nan, so it's developing personal strategies for positivity. Benefits of positive relationship at work is the next one. The next one is impact of positivity on performance. And the fourth one is the role of leadership in fostering positivity. And then the fifth, sorry, I can't count. Challenges to maintaining positivity. Positivity. There we go.
Thank you for bringing me in. I would choose the role of leadership.
Okay. So we've got 3 on leadership. Jess, which one you going?
I'm good with the role of leadership too. I'm always intrigued with all of them. So I was going through the impact, role, and challenges. So I'm good with role of leadership.
Okay, so let's start with role of leadership, and then if we've got time, we can go to impact as well. So, how can leaders effectively foster a positive mindset among team members? Discuss the impact of leadership styles.
Would you like us to discuss this now or small groups? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll discuss this now. We'll do a breakout challenge a little later on.
I want to bring up, and I think this came up in one of my coaching sessions, you know, how much positivity is seen as good versus, you know, somebody just not being realistic. A real leader cannot be positive all the time. There's a lot of stigma or maybe old mind thinking there as well, that someone who's positive all the time cannot be a serious person. Something is wrong with them. That's what sort of.
Pollyanna, right? I think the term they use is Pollyanna, someone who is
Yeah.
always, yeah.
And toxic positivity is the other one, where it feels divorced from reality.
So is that the definition of toxic positivity? How would you define specifically, how would you define toxic positivity?
Where there's no room for anything else.
You have to be positive or else.
Right.
Or I would add the group think. There's no room for alternative perspectives that do not follow along with the positive.
Yeah, bringing up negative things is then not okay, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone got experience of being in a team or an organization or a company where this actually played out? Where everyone had to be positive and, you can't show any emotion other than, hello, everyone, aside from Apple.
I only had it from a coachee, but I forgot which company, and it's not relevant. I'm not even, it's from Sounding Board, so I wouldn't be able to mention it anyway. But that they said there's such a positive climate, our positive atmosphere in our company, that we have to be friendly, nice to everyone, and it's all about the people. And sometimes when you have to say, give tough feedback because someone isn't doing a good job, there's almost no room in how to express that because it doesn't fit into the company's values system.
Mm.
So bad
Yeah.
people stay on and cannot sort of be disciplined almost for it. Sorry.
No, I interrupted you.
I'm done.
Are I was thinking, I sat on a board for Lean In Seattle, and there were a lot of people who sat on it because it was a really strong organization that did a lot of good work. But so the volunteer board was quite large, and it had this kind of toxic positivity, but it was almost based on an individual that was claiming a leadership role within the group. And she wasn't allowing any opinions other than hers. And so toxic positivity ended up being really toxic leadership and lack of being able, whenever there was any differing point of views, it almost turned cliquey as to who you were against versus opening up a circle of conversation.
That's not really positivity, though, is it? I mean, it's her brand of positivity, but it sounds really quite toxic.
Mm-hmm.
That's
But it was
interesting.
veiled with under positivity.
It's interesting, Brian, what you said about a brand of positivity there, because I think positivity can mean different things to different people. So that's something to bear in mind. When we say, how do we foster a positive mindset among team members, that will look very differently to each member of the team and to, of course, the leader.
I wonder if the word we should use then is optimism rather than positivity, having an optimistic outlook. Would that make more sense?
I actually prefer positive.
You do?
Because to me, optimistic can feel a little divorced from reality. Because if we always look on the bright side without anything to back it up, whereas to me, positive points us more to, look, there are going to be challenges, but how we feel about them is going to guide outcomes. And if we engage with a positive mindset, we're more likely to be able to find some kind of solution, even if it's not perfect.
That's an interesting thought.
I mean, what it had me also thinking about is what is the positivity potentially to avoid, and what most human beings in most teams want to avoid is conflict or contention. And so actually, is this really to avoid a fear?
What if you reframed conflict in terms of creative conflict?
100%. I'm with you, because I think without conflict, no one's taking any chances.
Yeah.
I think
find it so interesting. Sorry,
Go
just
on,
gonna
Nan.
say, go ahead, Nan, please.
I think that actually it's pretty important. This thing we're talking about right now, I think it's pretty important to dig down into what positivity means in terms of how it can be constructive, and that it has to include embracing differences, embracing conflict. But when you have a positive mindset, you believe that you will, maybe this connects to the optimism, but you believe that there are solutions out there, and you believe that collaboration can help you uncover them. But it's certainly not about painting a bright smiley face on everything. But positive mindset, sort of like a, it's okay. I've said what I need to say. I don't need to say it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just want to bring up an incident in a team that I was in very early on in my career. It was in an IT company. It was a corporate team, and it was just the opposite of that, where the leader, when things were going well, when sales were up, when we had multiple projects, it was very positive. The atmosphere was celebratory. We were taken on a reward trip to Mauritius. But when things started going south a little, when sales weren't so good, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't that spirit of, we'll find a way out of this. We'll look for solutions. It was more like the general manager would come out to the floor, the office space, and just go, I'm going to be an asshole to all of you until sales go up. And, it pulled everyone down as well. There was this real negative energy about everything that happened. It was a fear as well. If we don't get sales up, we're going to get yelled at every day. And I think a little positivity in that, directed effectively would have changed the atmosphere. And I think that's where maybe positivity had a role to play. It's not necessarily unrealistic positivity. It's more, if you put it in, the language of the working genius, the leader coming out and galvanizing people.
What it has me thinking about, Brian, is we so often rule things out before we've even given them a chance.
Yeah.
And actually, for me, this sort of positivity piece is, let's just literally whiteboard or brainstorm every possible option that we've got at our disposal that could change this situation. You don't necessarily have to do anything. There's no rules. Let's just get it all written down. Because I think there's just something in that creativity and expressiveness that creates permission.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a very positive way of engaging with a challenge, because we're actually saying, look, let's just see what we can come up with. No pressure. We don't have to do anything with anything. But I trust in you as a team to be creative. I trust in you to have ideas. Let's see what we've got.
Craig, I love that, because you can't have genuine creativity without a positive mindset. And and it builds on itself when there is that kind of permission to generate together and wind up someplace you couldn't on your own. That's a very positive, energy infusing experience, and it widens what's possible in a collaborative way. So I love that you're bringing up creativity there.
I'll add that it's that fail fast mentality of when they've done studies. If you look at like kids soccer teams, and if you're losing and all the parents start cheering encouragement for the kids who are losing, then oftentimes you can swap it around, because it's saying, oh, you did this, do this micro thing, you failed here, how can you, work your kick a little bit better, you got this, try again, do it out there. And then just that slight correction of a fail fast, along with encouragement of continuing forward, is where that positivity comes in as well.
That's going to actually feed into the next topic that in the next session on learning from failures and celebrating wins. So I think this connects as well to the one that Craig, you chose, the impact of positivity on performance, and what we've been talking about in terms of, fostering a creative space. And that is a natural outlet to positivity. How would you connect the two?
I watched a video that was shared with me the other day, and it talked a lot about how bureaucracy inhibits change. So our role as a leader is in removing obstacles. So for me, that's kind of the connection, because if I can help you take some of the blockers out the way, you're going to get that positive performance. And then you create this virtuous cycle where as soon as people start to see some traction or some indications that things are shifting and that things are improving, it then reinforces the energy and the motivation to keep going. So actually, I think one of the jobs of the leader is to be quite courageous in a way, to go, look, what we've been doing isn't going to get us where we need to do, so we need to think differently. Because that piece, whenever you're an ideas person, it's vulnerable. Because you're putting yourself out there and you don't know if it's going to work. It hasn't been done before. You're just coming up with something that could be worth trying.
Craig, you remind me of the best leader I ever worked for. And he was, this was in the Foreign Office, and that's exactly what he would do. He would say to us as a group, as a team, if you have an idea, try it out. If it works, bring it to the team. If it doesn't work, bring it to the team. Either way, we'd have learned something. But don't be afraid to try those ideas out.
It reminds me, right back at the very beginning of my career in black and white days 30 years ago, I joined the bank and the regional manager came down, and he would take all the new joiners to a room. So he didn't talk to all the people who'd been there for a while. He talked to all the people who had joined within the last 3 to 6 months. And he'd say, right, you're new, you've got a fresh pair of eyes. What would you change? And I never forget that lesson, because he really appreciated that fresh perspective before it got squashed out of you.
But then how did it eventually get squashed out? I mean, the fact that he was allowing that, what happened after that, crushed that?
For me, it was just all the, oh, we can't that. it's always been done this way. It's all the sort of, it's really a bit of inertia, if I'm honest, and some fear of change.
I saw a case study recently that I love that you're saying that, Craig, because it builds on that idea that they said that you can't make any changes for the first 90 days, because what they found is with change management, whenever they brought somebody new in, they wanted to use their system. My system's better, da, 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 because of it's the known. So he said, you have to use our system for 90 days and immerse yourself in it. And at the end of 90 days, if you find that your system is better, then we'll explore it. And I love the concept of using both of the theories together.
Mm.
I also think there's just an element that's sort of wired into us that we become acculturated. You know, even if we want not to, we become part of that system. So I think it takes very intentional interventions or processes to avoid that. To continue to poke at in a way that will create fresh eyes and invite new ideas, because we very quickly do become assimilated.
Like the Borg.
It's quite interesting, though, from a cultural perspective. I just want to bring in, and Daphne, I'm conscious you're present, but the Germans, the Dutch, and the Swedes have a reputation for being much more direct. However, when working in large US organizations, that's not always that welcome. So I'm working with a coachee at the moment at Slalom, and they really have had an incredibly tough time of it. They were super successful before, and they've landed in a space, interestingly in Germany, where you would think it would be welcome, and it's really not. So to me, there's a cultural dimension to this as well, in terms of sort of norms and expectations. And just thinking about some of the groups I've worked with in Asia, it's very difficult to encourage them to speak up.
I think, Craig, culturally, yes, one aspect, but also organizational culture, right? So slalom is as well, they're very people focused. So that is also a different, you know, like it's not consulting. Consulting isn't like consulting. So some of the people who've come from another consulting background going into slalom, I also have been coaching some of them. They're like, ooh, this is different. This is more touchy-feely than so it's like the culture, like even not, so even like consulting is not consulting. Culture in terms of country culture is not equal country culture, and then also organizational culture is not equal. So there's a lot of and I love that 90-day rule almost there, right? So embrace yourself in this culture and just see how and what fits in here, because what's okay in one area isn't okay in another.
Any more comments on the two ideas, the two prompts? If not, we'll move on.
I think we could talk about this the whole day, you know,
could.
it's so
We
interesting and so diverse.
Given that it's 45 minutes after, I just want to move on to the breakout challenge. And I know, Adam, this is your favorite part of the session. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. We'll have 3 in one group, 2 in the other. And I want you to take a screenshot of the breakout. So let's see, can we have, we've got 5 breakout challenges. I'll set up the breakout rooms first. And Nan, are you okay to be in a breakout room?
I am, but I don't know how to join it. So you should probably put me in the one with 3, and I, you know, if I can figure it out, I'll join. But otherwise, It won't be
But
disruptive.
if you make automatic allocation, so we don't have to click OK, then she should be automatically allocated.
Okay. Okay,
That's
so
good to know, Daphne. I didn't know that. You learn something new
There's
every day.
a click you can, there's a box you can tick or not.
yeah. If you do a screenshot of the challenges, I'll leave it up to the two groups to decide on which challenges they want. So we're gonna take 15 minutes for this one, and I'll bring you all back in 15 minutes. Has everyone got a screenshot of the challenges? Cool. Okay,
What happens
So-
if we all choose the same ones?
that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. So in room 1, we have Nan, Adam, and Jess. In room 2, we have Craig and Daphne.
But any coaches that have dealt with that recently?
All the time.
Yeah. How are we going to
Yeah.
go about this? You want to just say what has happened with them, or what you suggested to them, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's often I'm working with a fairly senior leader of leaders, and it's the relationship between them and one of their subordinates, whereas actually the relationship with all the other subordinates is fine.
Okay.
So this individual is almost seen as something of an outlier. And actually, interestingly, recently I've been reading a little bit about the shadows. So what I've started to play with is the language around what could this be revealing about yourself that you can't be with.
Love that.
Because there's this thing that supposedly we keep getting shown what we need to learn until we learn the lesson. So I guess for me, what comes up is I'm thinking about assumptions as well.
Yeah.
Like perception gaps, and actually finding different ways to express maybe our resistance, giving sort of, why do we have an issue with this? So not trying to justify, but trying to explain, I think may create more clarity around, actually, there may be more alignment than we think.
Yeah.
And where genuinely are there the gaps?
Yeah, you know what that brought me that the notion of yes and, or what I like about this idea and from, up.
Right.
It's like if you look for, and again, we talked about before the similarities, what here is similar and what of their behavior or of their arguments is actually bothering me. What am I afraid of when I interact with them? What is it triggering in me? All of this, right? Because that so deeply resonates with me. This, we're given this, what you said, given the people or the experiences, so that we deal with our own things, because it's nothing unless we have a reaction to it, right? If somebody says something, has no impact. The impact is what we make out of it. So in a way, the conflict is in us. The conflict is not with the other person.
Yeah, so you're having me think about projection.
Yes, right.
I mean, one of the things that I always do, I'm not sure that it's always effective or reciprocated, is I will often sort of say, look, I appreciate I could maybe have done this different, or I could have done this differently. I appreciate that maybe I wasn't as clear as I could have been here. So I'm trying to sort of show some humility and show some willingness to move. Because I think part of what makes conflict so difficult for people is because by the time they have the conversation, it's already too late. They really needed to have the conversation when they were at a 30 or a 40, not a 70 or an 80.
Yeah. The only thing that sort of gave me a ick feeling when you just said that is in my experience, many people have conflicts when it's something about power play. And depending on where you are in that power play, it might be really beneficial to say, I might have done something wrong, or it can give away all your negotiation power
Gotcha.
if you do that. So I don't know why. This is something that I think about strongly. I've had so many. It usually was for me like female male kind of thing. Often when there's like, oh, you don't know, but I'm gonna explain it to you, and because apparently you're just a silly little girl or something.
Mansplaining.
That's what came to me, right? And then there to get to the conflict is actually to first show I'm right there with you, right? So what are our similarities? And but that's my belief. Maybe it's totally wrong. I can only negotiate with you if we're equal. And for me to be equal, I cannot say as the first one, like, ooh, maybe I've done everything wrong, but here's a thought, because then the person will think, of course you've done everything wrong because you don't know, but I know better. So it's sort of a good start of the relationship. But while I'm saying this, I also realize how crazy this is, what I'm just saying. It's really about manipulation and power play.
You've probably just summed up why I haven't been as successful as I might have been in my corporate career. Too easy to give way, or too quick to.
Well, they're for the greater good, and people take advantage of this. I've just had a coachee this morning who's leading a global implementation process, and the business side is an IT project. The business side and IT side cannot agree how to move forward, and he's the project lead, and he doesn't want to make a wrong decision, and he wants everybody to agree on the solution, and he's come to terms with it now, and it really gives him some problems to say, I will have to make the decision. And one of them is going to really hate me, maybe, or not, but one of them is not going to like what I decide. And to also understand, yes, there can be some conflict resolution, and we also need to be okay if it can't be resolved, but we have to stay true to ourselves. So we cannot go if we feel bad afterwards, like we've given away our power, our humanity, our, I don't know, secrets, whatever it is, and then we come out feeling weak or uncomfortable or like a failure, then it's not a good resolution, even though maybe the context or the whole like operational thing in the company has been solved. But me as a person, if I don't feel good afterwards, I don't think we should go there. Does that make sense?
I've got a coachee who's exactly the same, and actually after a really tumultuous, very stressful, months-long process where it became very clear that the decision making around this particular acquisition and subsequent decision to try and integrate the two platforms was flawed. Actually, the outcome from that was I need to make my rationale for why we stop.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the key word when I reread this particular sort of post-it is around misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if we're thinking about mediating positively, it's almost first saying, giving each person the chance to sort of state their point of view. Then, and maybe before that even, you design, how are we going to, in a collaborative way, challenge each other's narrative
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to actually see, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it an assumption or a projection or whatever? So can we pick apart that actually both of our perspectives are in some way incomplete or incorrect, and then rebuild from there?
I love that. Yeah, like designing the alliance, and then I did a ORSC thing, and it's similar. Like you have both of them state their opinions, and then and talk to you as the facilitator, and then sort of
Right.
challenge back with some questions, right? And
Well, you've
yeah,
got the empty chair as well, right? Which is,
right.
if we had Bob
Yeah, what would
looking
you
at the
say?
two of us, what would Bob say?
Yeah.
Would you
Because we want to.
differentiate?
Sorry.
Sorry, Craig, to interrupt.
No,
Would you
go.
differentiate? Here are the facts. This is what we know versus the opinions, the premises, the thoughts, because everything other than facts are opinions, right? And sort of delineate the two.
But do you think it's always so clear that you have all the facts?
No.
No.
Or, sometimes facts are immersed in emotions and feelings and opinions. So whether this launch has been a success or not, how are you going to get the facts out of it, right? So I would definitely leave room for facts, figures, and what we know, and also what we feel, sort of what Craig said before. Like, so what's my opinion, or what do I bring? What's my viewpoint of this whole thing?
The other thing that, as you're sharing that, comes up, Daphne, is almost to say, and they ask each other, what would it take for you to change your opinion?
I love that. Yeah.
What would you need to see to question your belief or your current perspective?
Yeah.
Because then we're getting really concrete.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys if you know what your Myers-Briggs types are?
I just redid mine.
What's
I would
yours?
have to look it up.
I'm the campaigner.
What are the four letters?
I think it's ENTP. Let me just double check.
Daphne, do you remember yours?
I have to check. Where did I save this? Under trainer, maybe? Personality tests. I do not see mine. I can't find it at the moment. I've done it like 3 times, but no, why? What's your guess?
I didn't. That's why I was because when
Okay.
you talked about, it's not always easy to see the facts. That's the one that I struggle with. I'm an INTP, so for me, everything is about logic and the facts and objectivity.
Oh yeah,
And
okay.
I struggle with when people in a discussion, in a brainstorm, they bring in anything other than the facts, and I struggle with that. And that's my developmental area as well, because no, give me the facts. And if it's not a fact, how can
All
we
right.
actually discuss it?
I will go and look for it, but definitely I know that I'm very emotional, very facts do not matter to me at all. So yes, yeah.
And that's going to be a factor in, when you're fostering these brainstorms, you're going to have very different personalities in the room, and they're going to bring their experience and their personality and all of that to bear as well. And it depends on how self-aware they are. If they're not self-aware, they're going, no, this is the way it is, and this is the way it always should be.
It's so interesting. I totally forgot about this, but you're so right. We need to bring like the differences in styles and personality styles with it here as well. Yeah, because it will, of course, an argument or a conflict resolution looks so different if you have like-minded people, or similar personality types, or probably like differing ones, like they're opposite, like across from each other, right? They got diagonally across, because that's when you have most conflicts. And yeah. Cool. Yeah, and that's, I think, actually also why I said, what are the facts? Because if the analytical person or the more rational person, fact-oriented person says like, it's clearly, you know, we only got this and that, and I would say as an emotional person, well, but the feeling in the organization, everybody I talk to is, you know, is very positive about it. So I get a lot of positive feedback. So what's fact, what's figures, what's emotions versus what counts? Yeah. Like the rollout was successful because the financial statement that we have in the new, you know, financial year matches the old one. And I could still say, yeah, but nobody is happy working with the new system. So yeah, and we cannot, with these two opposing views, it's going to be interesting to find what's common ground. What can we agree to disagree on, and what can we agree to agree on?
And there used to be a saying in the Foreign Office where I worked, you know, it's fine to bring differences of opinion in the initial stages of the change process, but once everyone's accepted it, once it's been implemented, we've got to be singing from the same hymn book. So after that, you know, whatever you say, I'm sorry, you have to be on board or else. And I think there was a lot of dissatisfaction because of that. And if you're not singing from this hymn book, you've got to find another church. And that was almost taken sometimes as a threat.
Yeah.
Craig, are you looking it up?
I'm trying to find it, but I've put it somewhere safe and can't find it at the moment.
But what do you know about yourself? Where are you on the social cells?
Me,
Yeah,
about as yellow as you can get.
yellow. Yeah.
Expressive, big picture.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, yellow being decimal.
Yeah, the I and
Yeah,
the
I.
yeah. Okay, I, yes.
But the really interesting thing for me is, even though I'm very yellow and don't particularly enjoy the details, a lot of the work I do for Sounding Board on the staff side is actually exactly that: analysis, number crunching, trying to find meaning in data. So actually there is clearly a blue bit to me.
Interesting. Okay.
The one bit that I think I really struggle to be is red. I'm not a driver.
And so Brian, oh, our time is up. But Brian, you are a red sort of disc type, a directing.
No,
No,
definitely
no?
not.
Green.
More analytical then?
Remind me of the colors again.
So it's basically people on the right, task on the left, and then task at the top, people at the bottom, fast on the right, slow on the left. So blue is sort of slower, very task oriented. Red is task oriented but fast. Yellow is people oriented, fast. Green is people oriented, very loyal, but needs a bit of persuasion to get on board.
Oh, I don't know, actually. I'd have to explore that. I'd need to take the question.
Well, if you did the test, the work style assessment, right? You get every time Sounding Board. I can send you the Excel to it later, because I think Eric wrote that Excel once, and if you put in the things, and I actually asked Sounding Board now in enhancement, just show us the profiles on a graph. It would be so much easier. Going through these questions, I always takes me like half an hour to figure out where's my style versus theirs, rather than just see it on a graph. Yeah, but then you can easily find out where you are and where they are, and I always find that interesting.
I'll check. Okay, we are ready to go back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
So Jess, Nan, and Adam, you want to start off?
We
I'm happy
explored
to go if nobody else.
Go ahead, Nan.
Okay. So we were exploring the issue of burnout on a team, and we started with talking about from the individual person. Well, no, actually, we started about talking about within the context of the team. How might they first define how each one is experiencing burnout, because it might not be the same issue. And then how might they be able to collaborate together to ease burnout with each other? Like the question you mentioned, working genius, Brian, and just brought that up as, you know, people like and hate different kinds of activities. So maybe they can make adjustments internally. And then also the question of looking beyond the team. Someone's calling me. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, looking more systemically, is there anything, whether historically, where this is a predictable crunch time, and or is it endemic, or is there some kind of communication reaching beyond the team if it really is just too much? And then also looking at personal responsibility. How much are people taking care of themselves? What are they doing that's contributing to their own burnout or not doing? Janice and Adam, what did I leave out?
I think you
Covered it.
nailed it.
Yeah. Nan, you nailed it.
Okay, without taking notes.
Cool. Daphne and Craig?
Would you do me the honors?
Sure. We were talking about interpersonal conflict resolution. We had quite an interesting conversation, brought in some examples from our coachees. For us, really, there were two words that really stood out. One was around misunderstanding, and one was around sort of mediating. And so really what we wanted to, or what we sort of were discussing was, is there a way maybe to design some agreements up front to articulate a bit of where we're each coming at this from, with maybe in the design, the ability for the other person to ask questions to sort of probe and challenge and check what's been presented. Is it true? Is it not true? We were talking about the balance between sort of what's actual factual information and what might be opinion. So we were just trying to consider whether it would be helpful to distinguish between those two. But really it was about how do we try to see where the similarities are, identify the gaps, and then maybe have a different kind of conversation about what would it take to change your opinion. So without making it adversarial, really trying to get to what's the biggest resistance here, and is there anything I could do that would change that? What did I miss, Daphne?
Not really anything,
Brian?
except just for the end discussion we had. So how much do our styles influence this kind of discussion? And just to be aware of if somebody is really fact-oriented and someone is very emotional, that the same argument could look just so different, and just to be aware of it and maybe also make a point of it if we're facilitating.
I'm fascinated by that. What would it take to change your opinion? Have either of you had success with that singular question?
It just landed for me in that conversation. I haven't used it.
Yeah, I'd be
I'm going
curious.
to, though.
Because I'd be curious if people would, if that puts up their barriers of being like, well, nothing's going to change my opinion. I am right. And that's a good opinion to get out as well, right? So at least it gets out where people's stake in the ground is. I love that. What would it take to change your opinion? I'm gonna write that down.
I think that comes into play these days a lot in politics. We've got to find a middle ground. What would it take to change your opinion or move your opinion just a little?
And maybe that's where I'm basing it on, because in certain US politics,
Yes.
I'm not changing my opinion.
Yeah. And
we know
that
where you're
didn't
They
used to be
can.
the case.
But
They can.
Well, we know where your stake in the ground is, which is very clear. I like Brian what you just said though about moving, shifting, changing an opinion. Almost sounds a little bit like I'm right and you're wrong, and you're coming to my side. And it actually speaks to sides, doesn't it? And actually, that middle ground about finding alliance or that concurrence. I like that moving or shifting rather than changing.
In the positive intelligence framework, one of the things that we talk about is if you don't agree with someone, and sometimes you have really intense disagreements with someone, can you find 10% of what you
Right.
might agree with? Just find one little thing that you might agree with, bring it into the conversation, and then see if that could shift.
I've had some hard-headed people the other day, and I actually said, might there be 1% where this other person might be right? Can you find that 1%? And
I
they
like
were
the
like,
socks you're wearing.
yeah, exactly.
You know, the semantics matter though, because like using my example, I'm like, I'm not going to change my mind. But when you say what 1% or even 10%, can you agree with this person? I can begrudgingly come up with 10% or 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nan, you were going to say something?
Oh, just that I think that that's such a powerful tool, that 10%, or if you have to go to 1%. And where my brain went also was with politics.
I think all our brains are in politics this year.
Mm.
Okay, I'm going to take us to the next part of the session, which is some journaling. And we're going back to the whiteboards. And if you move down to the journaling prompts, just take 10 minutes, have a look at one of these prompts and do a short journaling exercise on these. Just take between 5 and 10 minutes. You can close your cameras out, sit down, write down a reflection on any one of these. And Nan, do you need me to read them out to you?
If you wouldn't mind, and then I'll meditate on them.
Okay,
One.
so the first one is reflection on adaptation. So write about a time when you had to adapt to a significant change. How did you manage to maintain a positive mindset during this transition? The second one is learning from feedback. Reflect on a situation where you received tough feedback. How did you use this feedback positively to grow personally or professionally? The third one, overcoming challenges. Think of a challenging situation you faced recently. What positive strategies did you use to overcome it? And what was the outcome? Fourth one, identify 3 things that went well with this week and explore how focusing on these positives affected your overall mood and productivity. And the last one, future applications. How can you apply the techniques discussed today to foster a positive mindset in your daily work life? What specific steps will you take to implement these changes?
And could you read number 1 again one more time? And then I'll go on.
So number 1 was reflection on adaptation. Write about a time when you had to adapt to a significant change. How did you manage to maintain a positive mindset during this transition?
Great. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Jess, you back with us?
Sorry, yeah, I decided to make lunch.
I'm about to have breakfast. Okay, so the last part of the day, I'd like you to pick one of the accountability prompts here. Nan, what I'll do is I'll send them to you directly, and rather than read them out, because you won't be able to remember all 5 of them. So I'll send them to you. So pick one for yourself. And what I'll ask you to do now is just one insight from today's session, and maybe one action that you'd like to take based on today's session.
Brian, do you want us to share it with everyone, or should we just do it for ourselves now?
You can do it for yourselves, but what I'd like you to share is an insight and an action that you'd like to take.
I can go. This helped me think. I was thinking through a personal situation. Actually, I shared it in my group recently in regards to my son and I, and we've had some really positive shift because of a fight that we had. And it also helped me realize that I need to take one additional step that I hadn't taken. And so I gained clarity on that today. So thank you.
Brilliant. Would you like to pick someone, Jess?
Sure. Craig, you're right below me. You can go next.
So I liked Daphne's suggestion about the yes and bringing that in as a way to build, I guess, build consensus, build agreement in conflict situations. That's something we did in coach training, but that I haven't tried in a sort of a more corporate setting. So the action I will take is to experiment with that. And I nominate Dear Daphne.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna collate what you both have said. So I also have, in the past 2 weeks, I've fought so many times with my son, and I have the action. So the insight is, we're fighting over something that probably isn't even existing, and we're just not getting anywhere. And so the action I want to do is do the 10%. So obviously he's too young to do this with me, but for me to do it for him, or maybe just mentally, so what 10% is he right on, or where can I go along then? And I'm gonna hand over to Adam.
Yeah, the same. The insight definitely that moving, not changing the 10 or 1%. I really like that. My action is just to be more aware of that question, that tool, perhaps in my future conversations. Nan?
Yeah, so for me, the insight, I was really struck by early in the conversation, the connection between curiosity, creativity, and positivity. So that connection got strengthened for me. And in terms of an action, I'm not committing to this, but I'm playing with the idea of sometime in the next 24 hours doing a mind map around, it may not be burnout, but I really loved our conversation about the team burnout and looking at the different levels of the individual and the team and the larger organization. So just all the nestings, and I'm not feeling burnt out, but just on a personal level to choose something and really mind map about the ripple and the different influences. And there's something there. I don't know what.
Thank you, Nan. Thank you, everyone, for another invigorating session. Daphne, I want to thank you as well for the testimonial video. That was brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a bit of a break because I'm going to be away till the middle of June. So we'll come back for session 8 probably in late June, if that's okay with everyone. And I think I've been asked to relay my thoughts from the AI conference in Singapore at one of the coffee calls. So I'll be happy to send my thoughts as well from what I get out of the AI conference in a couple of weeks. Right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming today, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you as
Thanks so
always,
much.
Brian.
Thanks for a
It was
great
so
evening.
informative.
Thank
Have a
you,
good day.
Brian.
Cheers.
Bye.
Good to
Bye.
hear all of you.
Bye.
Bye.